Hello, I'm Jody and I'm from Penguin and Owl Acres, and if you're watching this video you have purchased a needle felting beginner's kit. So this will be my first video and you should watch this no matter what kit you got because I'm just going to do a little overview about needle felting and what I know about needle felting. Okay, so the first thing I really want you to know is that it's not a science, and you can learn all kinds of different things about needle felting. There's tons of stuff on the internet, and I recommend you go and peruse Google needle felting tutorials, and there's tons of stuff out there. But you'll find lots of different tips and advice. But basically, the way I learned is just by picking up some needles and some wool and playing around. And I really, really recommend that you do the same. And don't worry about any sort of terminology or anything. This is just strictly needle felting. It doesn't involve any wet felting whatsoever. So you can mix the two, but that's a different type of practice. So we're just going to focus on wool and needles. So our equipment is where we're going to start. This is a basic foam block that will come with your kit. It will be different size, shape, depending on what you ended up with. But you don't really, for this project or any of the projects that you're doing, you don't need a very big working area. So we're just going to use a small piece. The main thing is that you want something that's thick enough. So this one's pretty thick. You don't need it that thick, but that size is good. You just want something so that when you're poking with your needles, that the needle will go through it, but not all the way through it, so that it won't break the needle or stab you. Okay, so just a little basic about needle felting needles. I'm just going to bring this down so you can see. With your kit, you have two needles. I've given you the 38 and the 40. Now, the difference between them is in the gauge. The 38 is thicker and it's meant for more coarse wools, whereas the 40 is a finer needle. It's more for like finishing. So you would use your 38 as your building the shape, sculpting the core of whatever it is you're making. And the number 41 would be for just finishing any projects, any little details, getting rid of any fuzzy bits on the outside, that kind of thing. Some people have asked me if there's a difference from needle to needle. And my experience is that yes, there is. I've been experimenting with a certain brand of needles right now that has a color coding system, and so far I really like it, and I'm hoping to offer those needles for sale. So if you are interested in going further with your needle felting, let me know. But if you're just fooling around with it and just trying it out, I wouldn't worry about it. A number 38 and a 40 is a great place to start, and yeah, that's all you really need to know. But here is your needle. So if you have a look at it up close, you'll see it has some barbed edges all along the tip. And these ones are triangular shaped. You can get a star-shaped needle, which just gives more surface area to go into the wool, and it catches the wool a little. It makes it felting faster. But for now, you're just starting with the triangular ones. And the differences in needles have to do with where the barbs are on the needle and how far apart they are or how many barbs they are. You can use these needles for the project that I've given you, and these will be just fine. So I hope that explains the needles. If you have any questions at all about anything and I haven't answered it in this tutorial, please email me. I am totally willing to answer any questions you might have. Just another little blurb about beginning. There's all kinds of wool that you can start with. What I've given you is some sort of core wool. So this is uncarded wool probably that I've given you. So it's basically wool that has not been turned into roving. It's just been washed from the sheep. It might have some little tiny veggie matter in it, little bits of plant. It has been washed, but sometimes that just sticks in the fleece. I wouldn't worry about it. It just gets incorporated into whatever you're making, and just it'll be hidden underneath, and it's not dangerous in any way. The reason I'm giving this to you is because I really believe that to make this an economical craft, you want to start, if you can get it from like a local sheep farm, that's great. You can order wool like this online. Again, if you want to know further, if you want to find contacts near you, I can help you find that. But the reason why I don't give you the perfect kind of wool for the core is because, like I said, to make it a more economical craft, I believe that you use this stuff for the core. Now, if you're doing one of the birds, I've given you some of this green. So this is just the same stuff. It's greenish, bluish, dyed, and it's dyed with a food coloring, and so it's non-toxic, and yeah. But you can use it for your project, and you don't have to worry about the little bits of sticks and stuff you might find it. Yeah. Anyway, but if that bothers you, you can just use rovings or whatever. So that's where I go to next, is just to show you about the rovings. This is Corriedale, I believe that's how you say it. I've only actually heard it read or seen it in writing. I've never actually heard it said, but I believe it's Corriedale, and I will write that down somewhere in your kit. But this is a dyed Corriedale. This is a nice medium coarse wool. This is what I use to finish all my projects. So you'll see further on into the tutorial. But if you want to purchase this, please contact me. I know a great place to get it, and I would gladly pass on that contact to you. It can widely range in price, and like my local yarn store sells this for crazy amounts of money, and I hate to see people getting ripped off. So please contact me, and I'll tell you a great place to get it. So, and you can get this in so many different colors, and it is just beautiful to work with. Just one other thing I wanted to mention with the needles is the reason they are barbed and the reason it felts. I'll just show you something, a little project I'm working on. This is a core of a bird that I have been starting. And if I take my needle and I poke it in, it just gets harder and firmer as I poke it all around. And the reason is because the barbs catch the fibers on the wool. And on the wool there's little tiny, if you were to look under a microscope, you would see little tiny barbs almost on the wool itself. So as you send the needle through, it hooks the barbs together and it felts it. And that's what felting is hooking, matting basically the wool fibers together. And yes, I think that's about all you need to know, just for starters. I can get into a lot of details, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to keep this as simple as possible. Please let me know if I haven't explained anything. This is my first time doing a video tutorial on needle felting, so I really want you to be successful with your first try, because there's nothing like trying something and it being too hard. It makes you give up. But I really believe needle felting is something most people can do. Yeah, and if you do my kit and you don't like how it turned out, don't give up. The other thing about needle felting is you can always change it. It's not like other crafts where, like sewing, where it's kind of completed. You can always alter things and keep working at it, keep poking at it, adding bits of wool, and yeah. So I think, oh, there's one other thing I wanted to tell you about. With your wool, if you have a roving like this, don't use scissors on it. It makes too clean of an edge, And what you always want to do is hold it in your hand and give it a tug and pull it off like that, because then you have a nice edge that isn't perfectly even. It's much better for blending your wools. And yeah, you can use scissors with your projects, but I would only use it on just trying to finish up little details or trimming little bits of fuzz. But other than that, you don't need to cut your wool. Your wool should be able to just be pulled, just the way I showed you. Okay? So yeah, I hope that was clear. On to the next one, part 2.